Okay, do you guys hear me? Oh, as long as some of you guys hear me, it's okay. All right, I'm just going to continue on this paint over. So, simplifying, where was I? Simplifying the shapes, right? So, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna wash out all these marker spots as well. So remember when I said we do the like we can leave the white as is when the light is overexposed. So here we can actually save probably one value. So like the orange can be our midtone, and then the white the highlight, and then the kind of like the peach color. Yeah, the peach color would be midtone, and then the green would be the shadow. Let me try that. Try that a little bit. And this works out well because like the peach color we can use for the kind of the face, the skin. Okay. So something like that would be a bit more simple. And then later on we can do these marks, like darker marks if you want, with a like I said before, like wash. Let me keep this quote open. Any any questions so far from the two of you? But this one, the left one, I don't think there's not much adjustments I need to make. I'll say maybe finish it a bit more on the bottom. So either cap the bottom or block it out like the reference has. It's kind of like framing it. But the rest, I really wouldn't change much. If you're doing um, these edges, because they're so little, I don't think it matters what medium you're using. But if we're doing a lot more, like covering a lot more areas, I would stick with a similar medium. Okay. So let me look at the other one. So this one would be an art study, right? And Okay, so from the color distribution, it's pretty close already, and the value distribution. But the thing that's like different would be like the shape clarity. A lot of the shape clarity is done with the like the slight outline, the slight darker outlines. We kind of talked about the pushing, well, you talked about pushing the darker values, and you could push the darker values in the background as well. So here it looks just like the elements are blended with, like the whole background is kind of blended. But if we just added a little bit of the elements, we would be good. So like these, just doesn't even have to be that dark. Oh, I don't want to draw over yours. So like our character is not really separated too well with the whatever's in the back, and that's also done with just like clear shape edges. This part is really important. Like the silhouette is always probably one of the more important things in a painting. Oh yeah, there's like a time limit before you can try, right? I forgot I put that because of all the AI stuff. The AI bros invading. They keep creating bot accounts. So yeah, sure. You can send. Oh wait, I need to go take a look at it. The only thing I see immediately is like maybe the chair and some outlines here. You could add some outlines here. Okay. Well, the next thing here, I'll put this one under. I don't know how well I can line it up, but I'll try. Okay. So the other thing that I wanted to talk about is like the same issue as Brian had is like the simplicity of form. So the simplicity is like, for example, this arm right here. Okay. like for example, these shapes here, they're a lot more simple in the original, where yeah, it's more decisiveness. That's the issue. Let me put it on this thing. I think the resolution I grab is lower, but we can still see. A lot of these are done with like less strokes and like faster pen movements. So like this would be an anatomy issue where all you have to do move these. There's a little bit of, like very minor curves here, but it's like kind of like how we interpret muscle features. But it would be pointless for you to copy this like one to one. So it's better to just focus on simplifying things instead of like trying to copy these like kind of like personalities or structures one to one. So let's look at the original one. Right, we have all these curves in here. Like you're trying to add kind of the same type of variations in curves. But these variations are because of the understanding of the muscles and how it twists, right? So this is why I say you should be careful when you study other artists, like especially if you're studying like sketchy stuff, because when they sketch like arms like this. So I'll sketch one right now. So when you try to like replicate this, like sure we can turn this off. We can replicate this kind of sketch one to one fairly accurately. So you kind of just, if I erase the insides, you can trace this or like one to one this without really thinking about why I came up with these curves, like the way that happens. You're just kind of copying the curves one by one. But really, if we look at the structure, this is not really a particularly characteristic arm, but it has some like anatomical features in it. So here we have the end of the collarbone. Here we have the deltoid. So there's a dip here, right? Here we have the tricep, and then this is the bicep. So we have this. So the tricep is wrapping around. And then this is obviously the elbow. It comes up here because the brachial goes into the upper arm and then rotate it this way. So there's a lot of underlying like anatomy to where we come up with this sketch. This is like an end result of a bunch of studies, right? So if we copy these things one to one, this is like the flexors. I think they're called flexors, muscles, and then This one is the brachial, rotating around to catch, to meet up with the thumb going the other way. So that's why there's a dip here, because it's going around, and then this is going around this way. So it's like this part is rotating that way, like, into the picture. But if you look at here, it's like a simple copy of the like kind of the little, they almost look like accidents when they sketch these things. It's like you see all these tiny curves, but they put them in because they have an anatomical understandings. Where this, I can see it's like it's just you're just trying to copy the shape. So it is actually better to just simplify. So if you don't know why these things are happening, then it's better to just do just do a straight, like, simple shape. Don't get too caught up with trying to mimic the details. And okay. Instead, just try to figure out what the overall shape look like, the distribution of like the weight of shapes. So oh, and do you recommend studying? Yes, eventually, but right now I'll focus on the getting the bigger shapes to be nice. So what you're studying here is like how the composition is done and how the coloring is done. So we have really dark shapes for kind of like both separation, so separating these background elements, and then dark shapes for adding like design elements for the outfit, right? So we have design element like belt, shoes. These are very obvious design choices. So if you're trying to study an artist, study how they use the colors and shapes to get the illustration across. How they separate the big shapes. So for example, right here we have this kind of edge where this part is white, this part is dark. This is really good for creating like distance for the subject and the background. And I do that a lot. So let me see. I'll show you an example. I wouldn't say a lot. I do that sometimes. For example, actually, the latest one that I have also has that. So like this one, right? Same elements. I do these things that crosses the subject, but crosses in a way that it looks like mechanical, and then once I get to the character, it's like more organic. So you can see that there's separation between the character and the background, like very sharp shapes, very oh no, painting on the same thing. Very mechanical shapes. Same thing here. Like we see these very like they're like stacked books or shelves, right? Very rigid shapes. And then when it gets to guy, you get these really like bumpy organic shapes. So now just from the shapes themselves, I can separate the subject from the background. Obviously, there's also the value difference. This is just pure white. This is the background, but there's also this element where there's background here. I'm not saying all this is like deliberately planned, but as you try to separate the background with the subject, you eventually arrive at these like one of these few tools we have to separate. So it's either shapes, value. So shapes, value, texture, color. So hue, saturation. So that's part of color. And um distribution of shapes is like kind of set. So we can just focus on these. It's one of those. So this is based on mainly value and shapes, right? A little bit of texture. Actually, I wouldn't say so much. There's like texture of different hues, but mainly values and shapes. So these are less organic shapes. These are more organic shapes. And we can separate the characters a little bit with that. How do you recommend studying it effectively? I read the question wrong. So the way I would study anatomy is uh, right now, if you're what I said in week one and week two is like if you have really good form, then you can see the references more clearly. So let me pull something up that's kind of relevant. Let me pull so obviously you can study photo references of people, right? But so here's a reference where if I'm studying, let me merge these first. I study statues for volume and form because form is pretty much the most important part for anatomy. Like aside from proportions, which has a little bit to do with form, but really it's like just measuring length. So measuring length is pretty straightforward. Just memorize the different proportions. But in this case, what we want to learn is volume. So if I were to look at this reference, like sometimes we study reference like this, right? You just take your line tool and maybe your experience. So you do Charles Barg, kind of do the outline. So silhouette's important, but the more important part is like, can we get volumetric information from the reference itself? So if I were to study this, it would be like both the proportions, like how long is the pectoral muscle, or how long or how tall, versus the abdominal muscles. Like maybe it's like 1 to 2. I can memorize that, sure, but I have to kind of get a feel of what the volume feels like. Get used to seeing and measuring volume just by looking at the shadows. And the easiest way to do it is through statues or something of uniform material, because then you don't have to deal with colors, right? So uh, studying people, people like photo of people is fine, but you sometimes get too much noise. So here I would just think of it as a like a cylinder, but then I'll break it down to smaller cylinders. So let's do a little bit of a tone. So I got the proportions. See, the proportion is really easy. Like just how tall is the pectoral muscles. And the hard part is like, okay, so the abdominals, right? There's some volume here. And based on how dark that that edge is and how dark or how fast this core shadow progresses, I can get a sense of how deep or how bulky that abdominal section is. And if I memorize that, if I get a feel for that, then it'll be easier for me to draw from different angles. So that's what I think about when I study the anatomy. It's not really copying this one to one. It's more like how do I define the volume of things based on its like the shadow, the information the shadow provides about the form, and the proportion is, the proportion you can go with. You can study other artists, you can study photography. It doesn't matter. So I would separate the lighting and so the form and lighting, separate that from the proportion studies. They're two very different things. So like, do you see how dark this shadow is? Tells me like how much depth there is to the pectoral muscle when it connects to the rest of the torso. So I expected a bend here. So this is bending sideways. This part is bending sideways, but really it's because his torso is pretty flat against the viewer. So it's not like bent forward, or else like it's very easy to create like a shadow here. But there's no shadow here because like the lighting is kind of front light, and also the twist is only to the side. But if I study only one reference, then I wouldn't know that. Like that could happen. You get like every time you draw the torso, it's like flat. Yeah, something like that. I won't finish this just because it's like, you get the point. Does that answer your question for anatomy? Like what to study or how to think about studying anatomy? People think like anatomy study is like about memorizing all the muscles. Really, it's like about looking at like interpreting the volume of what you see. Like, yeah, later on you can break down the muscles individually, but if you can't do this part, then you can't really do the, breaking down the individual muscles, because there you need to be more fine-tuned in how accurate you pick out the smaller form. So smaller muscle is just smaller cylinders. If you can't do the big cylinder, you can't do the small cylinders. So take the study one step at a time. Let's see. I'll go back to Ryan's for a second. Chili, did you only have one this week? Just this one, right? Oh, shit. Oh, you translate it to a full illustration, so I forgot what a study proof. Okay, so what do you mean by translating knowledge? Like which part of a full illustration are you talking about? Rendering? Are we talking about sketching, composition? Because the way you apply each of these are, you have to think about slightly different things. I hate how there's like a lag on this stream. after studying style, composition, color. Well, okay. Style application is a little bit of a complicated question because like what about style? You could have style in color, style in framing, style in camera work like angles, style in anatomy. Some people draw proportions differently. So the way you apply style is dependent on which like element of the style you want it to carry over to your painting or drawing. Composition and colors. Composition is mostly, at least we can start thinking about composition based on like shapes, the biggest shapes. It's like that's the first thing you see, right? So, um, obviously it's not that simple as you get more into the detail, like the way the character is separated from the background and the way we use very horizontal and vertical lines. Like if we look at these major, like how the line runs here. It's all vertical or horizontal lines. And then for elements that are like in front, the focus part, it's like more organic. It kind of runs everywhere. So that could be an element of like a more well thought out, or not well thought out, but a more complicated form of composition rather than, stuff like rule of third, just place your focal points here. So we'll leave that for a later discussion. But in terms of shapes, right? So let's say we have, well, so we're just looking at this picture, this painting. We can think of composition as like how is the framing done? This is a pretty much a full body shot, right? Kind of takes up. We can say this is like part of the subject. Kind of takes up like the bottom two-third up to here. So we can construct similar types of, yeah, we can construct similar types of composition to start with. Let's say I have this canvas right here, it's kind of long. We can do two-thirds, we can do sideways or something. So let's say we just care about the shape distribution. So this might be my subject. It's a little bit empty here. Like there's a lot of empty spaces, negative spaces. So this can be my subject. So I'm not concerned with angles and stuff like the camera angles and all that. I'm just concerned with like how do I break out the composition? Because there are compositions where it's not like this, right? Let's say we have. Let me try to pull one up right now. So I'm speaking strictly about like character related art composition. So we we have things like this. It's like it's clearly different. Right? Like the character itself does not take up that much space. So that's like 5% of the real estate of the entire composition. We can talk about like, oh, it's a triangle composition. It's a photo with a triangle composition on the character. And we can mimic that whether it's just the size, so the size would be like this big, and then we'll have landscape stuff because our focus might be like the height of the building, right? So we have this very uh, linear perspective up and down, and then we have this foreshortened perspective um, towards the horizon. So it really depends on which part you're carrying over. So when we focus on, let's go back to the other thing before I erased it. we focus on just like, oh, I really like the composition, like the spacing of it. It's not too tight, like doesn't make me claustrophobic, and I like how it displays the entire character. We can do something like that. We'll think about how to place the character, how to size it, how to uh, frame the character. So you can also like, let's say you decide on a pose. You can also like just draw the pose in and then frame it after. It's not like you have to do the framing immediately. So let's say something like that. This is a little bit too big already. It's making me claustrophobic. Or maybe that's more similar. You know, we could have these kind of like grid elements. I'm already like slanting the composition, but so it's a little bit different, more uh I hate the word dynamic feel, but yeah. So that's how I would approach it at first. And now we can think about like color balance. This is like a lot more pastel. So color and value plays a pretty big role into style. So if I see this style and I like it, I have to ask myself, do I like the shapes? Do I like the colors? Maybe I like both. So if I like the colors and shapes, then I can say, okay, the distribution of colors, like, it's more on the high end of the value. So maybe if I needed to block in the colors, I would start with near white, deciding how much of this I want to be like just washed out. So maybe that's okay. Like maybe that has a like a balance that I'm comfortable with. This red is really distracting. Yeah, and that's um one element at a time is how you try to carry over the style. So there might be something in the style that you don't really care for, or you don't really like. But if you just try to copy one to one every single picture, then you're not really isolating the parts that you would or would not like. So there's not selection. So I would say just try to carry one at a time over, like one element, whether it's like, okay, do we see a lot of horizontal lines here? Do we see a lot of like lighter colors, like lighter pastel colors? We can try to carry over the what you call it, the color palette, and carry over how the lines used, maybe the subject, like the type of subject, maybe the dress code, the like the type of um, what you call it, style that the character is dressing in. Maybe it's the hairstyle, like there's like a hairstyle for different time periods, so that could be a style thing. I can't really tell you like what's a good way to carry over style because I don't know how much of it you want to isolate. Oh, hello. Yeah, I won't be doing these streams very often because I'm only doing this right now because Discord kicked me out of the mic feature for some reason, so I can't use the mic, and I'm doing it over YouTube for now. Maybe I'll have some like public section sessions in the future, but it won't be like critiquing specific work too much. It's not like I would know which one to prioritize. Okay, so I'm gonna take a look at Brian's stuff. I know. Any other questions? No, no, these are not tangents. So when we start studying artists, our goal is usually not to copy the artist one to one. Like we're not trying to replicate the entire repertoire of their work. We're just trying to get like we like the artist, and the job is to figure out what part of the artist we want to be inspired by. So it's not like we're trying to you're not trying to be a copy machine. So it's like that's the most important point of studying an art style. Wouldn't really be a 10. Yeah. And when you two have any questions, it doesn't have to be on your art. So if I'm going over Brian's stuff and you have questions, you can ask those too, and I'll try to answer them in context. So the next one actually is related to your question about how to study anatomy, because this is a statue. So stuff like this we'll try to capitalize by studying form, because it just happens to be black and white. So first thing I notice is like there's not enough value ranges. So just at a glance, right, we don't have all the dark ranges that this kind of statue has to offer. So a lot of ambient occlusion is missed. A lot of core shadow is missed. The drop shadow is missed. So the drop shadow is missed because we don't have enough brightness on the areas that's hit by light. Uh, Technically this is bright enough, but the shadow itself is not tight enough. So let's look at how we look at shadows and shapes. So when I say shapes, like you need to be more careful with like how to cut shapes, but also like the transition areas of shapes. I don't know if I mentioned this to you guys specifically in this way, but when we look at shapes, like we can, you guys done distillation studies where you cut everything into two values and there's no transitions. But when we look at these, like yeah, we can see, we can see there's this very clear separation of shapes here, right? So the red that I've uh, kind of circled around or went around is the light part, and then the blue side is the dark part. So if I were to put that in, and then put this in, we'll get a pretty similar shape, right? But it doesn't have that realism. Like, yeah, it's really good practice for shape extractions. Obviously you want to do this freehand. I just trying to prove by example, but we see that here. You have that really clean outline, and it's, for the most part is accurate. But we're not paying attention to the transitions. So the transitions here, do you see there's like a little bit of shadow here? Like here. It's like there's a gradient. Yeah, I can cut a line to be like, okay, this side when it's lighter than this, it will be white. When it's darker than this, it will be the dark side. Yeah, like sure, that's fine. But we're missing a lot of form information. We also see a lot of shadows here. But if we're studying form, eventually we want to get to a part where, you're just like once your shape distillation is very clean, like very accurate, we want to figure out how to get the transition accurate. So I'll do the shape, right? I'll do the approximate line here, like the angle of the leg. So very classic Charles Barg or any other type of copy methods that you have, like measuring with a pencil, right? We'll kind of sculpt the shape out. However you like to do it. If you want to use lines, that's fine too. Right now we have the silhouette, so silhouette's really important. This stream is for mentoring 2 people, yeah. But I'm just sharing it because, they're okay with it, and I don't have a I don't have a method of streaming on Discord because Discord is glitching out. So okay, so now we have the silhouette. So here's the important part about studying volume. I showed a little bit with, this example, right? Where we're looking at volumes. So I'll leave this one here. So the transition, how quickly does the shadow transition to the light is pretty important. So this shadow is like darker than the background, right? So I'll get a basic shape in first, like the basic form of the leg. So it's like a cylinder, like a very standard, boring cylinder. There's no variations. And then I'll have to start seeing like, okay, there's the kneecap area. It's like a bump. And on this side, there's like a really sharp transition of the face. Like it's turning this way really quickly, right? This little area is turning away from the light really quickly. So I want to keep that sharp. And then there's like a terminator on the kneecap. That's like pretty sharp as well. There's a little bounce light on the left side here, but we won't worry too much about that. Not intentionally. So as we're doing the terminators, a lot of these bounce light does show. Because we're just making this part darker, so this part will appear, the left side will appear lighter. Okay, so do you see how there's like a soft transition? Because it's like a very flat, not flat, but like a very smooth transition of like a cylinder, like pretty much standard cylinder. You want to keep that like tight, or not tight. Keep the transition really soft, and then down here we want to keep the transition really tight, because the shin here, the shin bone here, has a very sharp transition in the front. It's like it goes from one side to the other very fast. So we have this much clearer line. And then this part is kind of affected by the calf muscle pushing forward. Like maybe it's like calf and shin muscle pushing forward. So you see a little bit of shadow here. I'm exaggerating, but you see a little bit of shadow here. And to keep this part tight. So this way we can learn a bit more about, we can commit more details to memory than just like, oh, I get really good at drawing cylinders. But once you get really good at drawing cylinders, then you have to use that skill to break down these smaller form changes. And like if I draw this, right, then I can draw the legs in slightly different angles with the same amount of details, because I didn't learn how to draw this picture. I learned how to draw like the forms of a leg, right? So if I were to draw this in a different, this is kind of straight, so I don't know. I can draw it in a much different angle, but let's try. I know there's like a sharp, this area is kind of like a sharper transition towards the knee, like right, it ends at the knee. I need to keep the top soft. bounce light. Let's not worry about the anatomical accuracy on this side yet. We didn't pull any reference. This part will be tighter. So I can guess a little bit about the form of the leg. Actually, that's not really a different angle. I try to do a foreshortening. It's a very awkward angle. It's a very awkward angle. So the bottom here, like the shin, we want to keep tighter. So hopefully you get what I mean by like studying form with stuff like this, not just trying to copy the two-dimensional shapes. So if we were to translate that to this, first of all, I would add the brushes are not available for free, but I feel like the brush I was using makes things okay, so it does make things a little bit harder, but really it's just a little bit. So with this flat-ish brush, right? We'll try to do the dark values first. So I will look at these dark values and see, like, the way I like to think is like how close it is to black. And that maybe looks about right. Maybe a little lighter. So I'll get those parts in first. Maybe not first, but like pretty early. So I can set the contrast for the entire painting. Oh, marker is kind of a bad example because marker is like not really that blendable of a medium. We can attempt with marker, but you still do have to get rid of the brush strokes a little bit. So I'll use a harsher brush. So this is like a really like no wait. It's like there's less ways to work with opacity. It just comes out pretty hard. So okay. Do you see these dark lines right here? It's like very distracting. Also, it doesn't exist. Like there's not that much of a contrast here, so I will take these out first. In the opposite side of that issue, we have this that's like really dark. Okay. So even if you were to use marker, you can still block out a lot of. Okay, so in terms of white, with a marker, you just literally don't touch it. So you can still keep that pretty clean. We don't have to worry about texture. It's these areas that we have to worry about texture. So I'll try to use a really jittery brush thing. Mm, this is pretty jittery. We can still keep the textures pretty even though there's a lot of textures. Almost no contrast here, right? Like this is almost like washed out, so we can lose the edge here. I avoid doing too much like white on the inside the canvas because it messes up with your like judgment of values. It feels like there's something populating over there. So yeah, I do commission it sometimes. Because we're drawing a figure, I like to almost like always put the limbs in, even if I have to like simplify the limbs into like almost like a stick figure like simplification. So if I know there's an arm here, I'm just gonna, block that part in. I'm gonna block this part in. Right, because if we don't block it in, it actually usually it can affect the balance of the figure. So like if I don't see an arm there, then I'll feel like the balance is a little bit off. Because it carries weight for the character to stand a certain way. So I think that that part's pretty important. So even if it's like a stick figure, just like putting the limb there is going to help balance your character. Whether or not you render it later, that's up to you for the study. But get into the habit of like putting in the limbs early. So this can go back to like figure drawings and stuff where you want, if it's like a character art, you want to establish the pose first and balance. But it doesn't just apply to figure. It applies to general painting as well. So even if you're painting like trees, I usually want to put the bulks of the shape in first so that the paintings themselves do not look out of balance. It's like if it looks out of balance, then you can't really adjust the composition. Same thing here. Like because I can see the leg here from the shadow here, I'm gonna add that in. Stuff like this, especially as like on a smoother surface like the face, is going to be pretty distracting. So I usually like to like, whether it's like cross hatching it out with the same brush or like just using a flatter surface or going over it until it's like smooth is kind of important here. Okay, I haven't touched this part yet. So here, I made the legs darker than the background because the leg is darker than the background. That's the only way we will tell separation, unless you just start lining it. But lines are, in general, it's like a weaker device to separate shapes than just letting the shapes be different shapes or different values. I'm sure there's exceptions. So this goes back to the organic thing versus inorganic shapes. So do you see how I'm trying to make sure I get this line like very, very clean? Get a separation of the front and the back. So I just made very like I would say kind of minor changes to the overall, and we can see a little bit more form, right? Like it looks a little bit, how do I say it? It's like I hate this term too, like more 3D. It's more three-dimensional because we're adding the lighting information, but also the transition. So we can make the transition here a little bit smoother. Oh, thanks. Glad you liked the work. Okay, so I'm trying to make the transition here a little bit smoother. Yeah, dev, it just takes time. That's all. Now okay, so this one is a little too bright. That's good because now if I darken it, I can slow the transition more. And then this part is brighter, right? So do you see how clear that that bow tie on the like right above the shoe is? This piece. Because of how dark the background is. So this darkness is like almost as dark as this. Is because of the shadow, the drop shadow of the figure itself is hitting the back, but not actually hitting the bow tie itself. We can do that. Yeah, so if you want it to be more three-dimensional, you have to think about like the form transitions. So what I talked about here, like this is a softer transition right on the side, and then faster transitions would be like here. So if I okay, so let's take a look at something real quick. Oh, I painted over that. Oh no. Okay, it's okay. Mm, form transitions are pretty important. Let's take a look at this, and then we'll do let's take that out. Let's just fry the crap out of the ranges. Okay, so this is kind of your shape distillation. So let's look at the lakes here. With the exception of this like tiny little strip. This little strip right here. We can tell like the whole thing is kind of like just sharp transition. It's either black or it's well, mid-gray. White. Let's call it white. It's either white or it's black, right? It's either it has values or it's like blank. So yes, it's good practice for getting really accurate sketches in the beginning, right? But it doesn't like it looks flat. This looks like something like you can still see some of the forms, but this looks like very traditional manga look where all the gradients are kind of blown out to where it's either it has tone or it does not have tone. That's kind of the symptom here, where it's like it has shadow or it doesn't have shadow. Each of these individual shadows are, yeah, like slightly different in tone, but that doesn't tell us as much information as if I use a adjusted gradient. So either it's like a tight gradient or it's like a really, really sharp gradient to the point where it's like a line. So all I did was add the dark values and then maybe do the separations and get the gradients in. And I used a really hard brush. So, I could have gone in and used something like use something like this, like make it really soft gradient. But really that's not needed. We can do it with a really hard brush. Just having a slight transition would already help. And then if we were to do the terminators, that would give us a lot of these bounce light information. So we're doing the terminator. This one's not, but and then I haven't fixed where the skirt is yet, because the skirt has a like much sharper. They're all either drop shadow or just like surfaces that are facing away from the light. But we can get that shape to be very clear. So this goes back to distillation. This isn't really like a transition thing, like speed of transition. So see, like this part is pretty careless. So we have two different forms. You kind of merge them together. We have under this under like the fabric, and we have above the fabric, which is behaving like a cylinder. So if I were to do it, if I were to draw it with like a normal brush, right? I'll do this. I'll go under the fabric, and above the fabric, I'll do a cylinder, right? Like that. I'll clean up the separation of the different types of form. This is how you study forms. This is how you study anatomy. Everything that has to do with volume. This is how you would try to break it down. And then once you can break that down, no matter what kind of volume you draw, it's going to be convincing. It's more convincing. And ambient occlusion here. It's like drop shadow and ambient occlusion. Right. Okay. So I'm going to go back to the really hard brush. That was just to demonstrate the approach here. It's a lot of stuff going on here. There's like the flower, right? The flower, and then there's a drop shadow of the flower. But if you squint, really, that you don't really see the flower inside the flower. You just see the drop shadow stuff. Yeah, like okay, I can add some little bit of like whatever in here to get it slightly darker, but I wouldn't really spend too much time there. Like focus on the big shape first, big shapes. Do I only stream on YouTube? It's on Twitch as well. Why not use a gray canvas in this case? You can. I'm just going over an existing study from a student. So I personally would start with a gray canvas just because it's not blinding. Like if you start with a white canvas, it's just like your eyes are burned. So I like to start with a gray canvas, but it's fine to start with a white canvas if that's what makes it comfortable. If you're comfortable staring at a white canvas. Don't know too many people like that, but just because like white canvas is like kind of scary. So, but I know some people line on white canvas like pure white because they like the contrast. It gives them more room to work with. If you start with gray, then yeah, you can go up or down. But if you know your lines are going to be black, then if you want the clarity, you can start with white. So. Yeah, I can keep cleaning up this shape and these shapes, but you can see I'm just looking for that. You see that arm here? There's the core shadow on the left side. And then there's ambient occlusion from the waist. And then ambient occlusion on the right side because it's like blocked by the body. And then the light starts catching as the arm comes towards the viewer. So we will put that in. Okay, we're not worried about the anatomy right now. It's not. That's not the main point. I just worry about the form. The drop shadow here on the hand is a little bit complicated just because the form is so small, so it's hard to see. But if it's hard to see for you, it's hard to see for the viewer. So as long as you get the hand feel correct, then it's okay. Uh, yeah, it does a little bit. Sometimes I turn it off. Actually, per stroke, right now, no. Like this one doesn't have it, but it's per like, what the heck? It's very low. You can barely see it. It's like it jitters within the same brushstroke, but it doesn't jitter between brushstroke. Either setting is fine. I use both. Sometimes just depending on the weather, but it doesn't really affect how I paint. It affect like the feeling of the texture. So do you see this? There's this form change on the torso. The torso is kind of twisted, like this area, like the abdomen is kind of twisted to the right on top, and then it goes to the left. But the surface, we can shade it to kind of give us that information. Right, so now it's twisted to the right on top. It's following this line. It's very, very subtle. And this is actually the like the crease on this clothes, like this crease is both from the button and from the rib cage, I assume. So the bottom of the rib cage makes this bump. Okay. Yeah, like I said, I can keep going with this, but you get the point, right? Like what you should focus on when you're doing the value studies and form studies. So if we're doing black and white, then chances are we're gonna focus on the form studies. Obviously, you can focus on those things for black and white studies, but um, before you get the form correct, that's probably what you should be focused on. Unless, that's if you want to draw in a style that's kind of related to realism. Any semi-realism, anime even. I am not painting with a mouse right now. Okay, so you don't need to pick anything more simple than this one. So the reason why this one is good because it's like there's some complexity, so you have to kind of learn to navigate through the complexity and focus on when you really need to learn. Because yeah, sure, we can just draw boxes and spheres all day, but if you don't try to learn from more complex subjects, then the stuff you can learn from gets very limited. So you have to be able to like say, let me just draw it out because it's more easier to demonstrate. Okay. So let's say we study this one. We pick this one as a study. What what you need to do is like not focus on these like really really messy details. So let's look at what you've done here. So here we have, where do we spend time? We spent time on uh these things, right? Where's the most time spent? This is pretty fast. Not a lot of time, but maybe right here and right in here. See like layers of brushstrokes. That's pretty fast. Now, most of it is actually pretty fast. A little bit right there. So you notice you spent most of your time drawing these like actually some time over here to adjust for that. You spent a lot of your time adjusting for these tiny very like fine details because that's where our eyes go to immediately. But really, yes, your eyes goes to that because everything else looks fine. Uh, but if the big shapes don't look fine, then the viewer's gonna go there first. They're just gonna be, oh, that looks weird. They'll just point out, be like, oh, that legs look weird. That leg's looking weird, or or this is looking weird because it's like all you see is this block, right? Because there's no softness here. So you're like, oh, this looks weird. They don't even look at here. So you would be wasting your time if you start your render in these areas. So what you have to do as like effective study is you look at this and you're like, okay, that's a cylinder, obviously. That's like a kind of a sharper cylinder. There's an angle here. So I have to think about like, okay, how do I draw a cylinder and how do I make the sharp edge? So once I draw the cylinder, I have to make this edge sharper than a normal cylinder. And then this is another cylinder, but because there's a drop shadow, I have to find out where the shadow is coming from. What angle is this in? What angle is this in? We can draw the cross contours. However you want to do, or like whatever you want to do to make sure that you are reading the form correctly. So sometimes I like to draw these cross contours, right? So that's my leg position, right? But if you just draw them flat like this, it doesn't tell you a lot of information. Whether it's line or blocking doesn't matter. But let's say I block this, right? And you just do it like this. It doesn't really give you that much information. So sometimes I like to do, well, I like to circle the joints to kind of get a feel of the proportions and get that out of the way. This one's kind of flat, so the cross contour would be like this. This one's kind of pointing out, so it would be like this. This one's pointing in, be like this, and then this one would be like this. So a cylinder, when it's flat, I draw a center, like kind of cut it in the middle. It'll be like this. But if it's like kind of tilted, let's draw the back. It would be like, it would be the average between the top and the bottom, right? Angle wise, if it's like in the center. Yeah, if it's like super foreshortened. The center line would be like that, kind of like a crescent. Okay. So this line right here is what I use to draw, like, let's say I have an arm here. It's like some fingers. Just get an arm pose in. What I do, I show the cross contour first. And you can make it like, oh, it's a watch or whatever. Like at the wrist. However many cross contour you need to, get enough information for your form. So when I shade, I also do that sometimes. So we can simplify that into a cylinder. We can simplify that into a cylinder. So that's why I said the twist here, right? And then this one is very foreshortened. Here, I'll do this. So that helps me get an idea of how the shading is done. How the shading should be done based on the light. Okay, so let's look at the other one. I'm going over time a little bit, but that's okay. Okay, so this is also a problem with like too much complexity. So you're starting to draw the features, not the form. So I would just do a quick paint over. I'm gonna block the silhouette first, right? So something like that, and then Ooh, the red is a tricky one. So red actually looks pretty dark. But we have values here that's like very similar. We can wash it out because we don't have um hue contrast. There's no hue contrast if we're just doing black and white. Gotta block these out for. Oh no, don't do that. I forgot I'm on a different layer. Okay, so the body we can do as a cylinder. And these cylinders are really like very low light effect, so the transitions are very slow, very soft. It's very difficult to notice, like where the gradient starts and where it's darker. So it's darker down here, and we get some red bounce lights. I said red is pretty dark. You're shading like you're blocking like this, like the hatch, but really the shading is not that strong. Okay, now we have the ambient occluded area under. So I'm not even worried about the hair itself, just like how much shadow is the hat given, the face area. Actually, more than that. It's like pretty close to black. Okay, so these we can shade as like a very soft sphere. The con. But we don't want too much texture in the background because it's like distracting to the subject itself. We can ignore this. It would be dark anyway, so. Okay, so we have quite a bit of clarity on the silhouette of the shoe here, because this part needs to be darker. Okay, so I'll stop here in terms of this one. I'm focusing on the form, right? Yeah, so now there's a bit more volume. You can keep working on this, but there's a bit more volume to start with. I don't want to focus too much on the design in the beginning, like the details and the textures in the beginning. I just want to focus on form. Any questions? Yeah, so for next week, pick something that's like similar in terms of difficulty is fine. But it's like what you focus on needs to change. Form of such a study from life if you have time. Yeah, I can take a look right now because I spent like half an hour messing with my mind. Get distracted by design. Yeah, well, yeah. You can if the design involves really big form, then do that. But if the design is just small, like small things, like for example, uh, what the heck was it? Oh no, too many layers. Okay, if the design is the elements is like these tiny frills over here, then I would skip the form for now. So these things and uh, wait, yeah, these and maybe like these. That's like a texture thing. This stuff right here, the little tassels. But if the design, for example, if the design is oh this thing where it's like a really big piece of fabric and there's like light that's you know the form is very readable even when it's zoomed out, I would focus on those early, even these little like the frill on the skirt. I would do them because they're big enough for me to consider them as like soft forms. uh and it is part of the design. Now if it's like too small, right, like stuff like here, there's like flowers here, there's like a tiny frill here, there's petals and then ribbons, those just silhouette those, just like major shapes. You can block them in. Now how small it is, it really like work one step at a time. So maybe for me, I would be comfortable doing like the form here like immediately because I know I wouldn't get too distracted by it. But if that distracts you too much, then focus on the bigger ones, and then see how well you can stick to uh, consistency with form. Stylization and translating and reference, those are two different things. Translating a reference requires fundamentals. Stylization is a very, very wide topic. It's like it depends what you consider to be stylization. I I don't. It makes no sense to me to get burned out in art if I'm not working in the industry because I get to draw whatever I want. So it's like if I don't want to, I won't draw it to begin with, right? So it's, burning out is not really. It's kind of not even in my consideration. Like by definition, if I think I'm gonna get so, let's say I draw something I don't like. Think about something I don't like to draw. Hmm. Venus flytraps. I don't think I like drawing Venus flytraps. If I have to draw Venus flytraps every single day of the year for 4 hours a day, I probably end up not liking drawing because I that's not what I want to do. But that's what a lot of industry artists end up doing. It's like they work on stuff like, oh, I want to be a character artist. Really like drawing characters, and then they give you like the most, like the thing that you don't want to draw the most, or the thing that you don't really want to draw much, and then that's all you're gonna do 8 hours a day. Or commission artists, you have to pay bills, so you do commissions, and then most of the commissions is not going to be characters you like, because characters that you really like, you would make them as original characters because you really like them, right? So that's, it's not to say like, oh, other people don't have great characters. They do, but everybody's preference is different. So what other people think is like their favorite character, like let's say you have a character with like fancy dresses, like Victorian dresses. That's really cool. I like that. But just because I like it doesn't mean another commissioner or another artist would like that. And if I make them draw fluffy Victorian dresses, they might just hate me because they hate fabric, just from the difficulty, or they don't find it cool. They like drawing uh like body suits or like armor. Maybe they like drawing armor. They don't like drawing cloth, and then you get burned out. But for me, I have a wide range of things I like to draw. Kind of wide range. Uh, and for the things I really don't like to draw, like maybe I'll practice it a few times just for fun, but I don't like try to grind it out for 50 days. How do you plan long-term goals? How do you, sometimes I don't determine what I draw each day. But sometimes I run into things I want to draw and I just like keep it on the list. Be like, oh, I want to draw this the next time I draw. And it's like I would just go through that list and see if I want to do that today. But yeah, does that answer your question? Yeah, and I put a critique log channel, so I critique my own stuff. So if I say I need to work on form, or I need to work on painting, or some type of more nebulous art concept, then I try to list those things out, and then might work on them in the future, like future paintings. Like if I really wanted to work on texture, I read my previous critiques on myself, I'll be like, oh, I need to work on that thing. So I'll pick references that has whatever it is that I want to practice, and I'll practice that. So it's not really like I don't have like a 5 year plan. Just I want to paint better, so I figure out what I don't paint well in, that I want to improve in, and then I I paint that. Yeah, so I think we're done with the mentorship session. If anybody has any questions, I can answer them for a bit. You guys know what you need to do for next week, right? They'll mostly is like similar things. Like you guys are picking references that are good, but it's like using those references more effectively, more efficiently, and getting more out of those is the key here. Similar. There's always a bunch of things that we want to improve on. So for homework, should I continue on this piece? If you have time, do one of each. Like continue working on this piece a little bit and then create a new one using the elements of the style. Don't I wouldn't try not to do too many things at once. So if you want to do form studies, just pick 1 week to do form studies. Don't try to mix them too much. So this time try to extract the like the elements of the style, because if you know the example that I did was the forearm thing. Like, yeah, you can study the forearm, but like, are you just gonna study one thing every time I pick one out? It's more like the consistency of studying with more accurate, like more reading the form more accurately, more in depth. That will help you along for the next year or two. It's not something you can cover in a week. There's so many like tiny anatomical details and like habits that you can build, and you can't build those habits within a week. Artists who wish to make their art their full time. Oh man, in this economy, it depends what kind of artist you want to become. Like, do you want to get better and sell art like oil paintings? You want to go to cons? You want to work in industry? You want to, you know, paint complimentary like for example, you can work in commercials, do storyboarding. There's so many different avenues, and all of them are super competitive. And I don't know much about most of these fields, but it's very difficult to recommend unless like you're unless you can't stand not doing it. Yeah. I have the brush pack available on Patreon. It's you can just download it and upload it like, or I update it once in a while. I'm trying to make a Photoshop set right now, but I don't use Photoshop anymore. It's just I like Clip Studio's Clip Studio paints business structure way more than Photoshop. So and Clip Studio Paint has some advantages for clarity, like brush engine sharpness over Photoshop. Photoshop brushes are a little bit blurry. They're kind of nice in terms of like having that fuzzy feel, but it's just not worth it. Like you can still get that in Clip Studio Paint. It's just a little bit more. It's not default. It's not out of the box. That makes sense. But yeah, for the artist thing, uh, figure out what you want to do, and then get really good at like the skills required to make those things, and go from there. And I'll ask advice from people in the industry that you're trying to get into, instead of like me, who's more like a I just like to draw type deal. I don't really have any advice. Let's say if you want to get into like Riot or something because you want to paint splash art, I would not be the person to give the advice for that, because that's not what I do. So I don't really have that much interest in splash art, and I get a lot of questions for like, oh, how do I become a splash artist? And I'm like, I don't know. So I can tell you how to do fundamentals. I can tell you how to do like push you in the right direction for certain aspects of art, but not like commercialized stuff. I do work with these companies sometimes, but my style is not what they're looking for. If I were to build a portfolio for industry, the first thing I would do is perspective work, just like spam perspective work. Like anatomy is not that important because you can just look it up, but if you get perspective wrong, then you can't really draw anything else. But if you get perspective right, then the rest is kind of okay. Like you can kind of learn it uh, quickly. Uh, Style matching is pretty important. So learning to work within a style constraint. So whatever I went through with the mentorship today, it's like, oh, how do you extract style from a like going for a master study or like studying a different artist? You have to isolate the elements that make a style what it is, and then if you can replicate that like from first principle, then you will be pretty hireable from what I've heard. Yeah. And you know it makes sense. You have to work in a team, and generally you don't get to pick the direction uh, of the IP that you're going to work on. So whatever existing asset you see, um, you have to work within the constraints of those assets or those concept pieces. Any other questions? Yeah, if nobody has any questions, I'll probably just turn the TV off. Oh, there is a question. How do you recommend someone to learn perspective? Is there a book you recommend? Okay. I hate recommending Drawbox, but it's good to take a look at it. And there are some books on formal perspective. You can take a look at those too. But it really depends on what, like where you're at. Like what parts do you mess up with perspective, and you can go from there. That requires like asking someone the question. So, you can look up some YouTube tutorials on perspective. There's some good tidbits of information here and there. But if you want to learn really fast, the one of the only ways is like, well, the two ways is like read a book cover to cover for perspectives and just practice whatever it says in there. Stick with one like school of thought. Or if you watch YouTube channels, stick with one YouTube channel. So if you watch like say cynics, for example, just stick with cynics from whatever they make from beginning to end. Because if you look at other people, they're gonna have different approaches, and you don't want to like cut off an approach before it's like effective. The other method is like ask someone who's kind of there, like they can do whatever you are trying to do, and then ask them to kind of point out how to get to where they are from where you are. So in short, it's like mentorship, right? It's like one of the only ways. You can of course do it slowly over decades. Uh, at least perspective is easy to learn. Post a fan art of your OC and tag. Yeah, you can. There's no like anybody can tag me. There's no problem, and I don't. Okay, I don't mind at all if people study my stuff and post it and credit or not credit it, right? Uh, if you drawn it from start to finish. Now, if you paint over my stuff, then yeah, that's kind of wrong. But if you just study it, then yeah, to do whatever you like with it. Unless it's a commission, because I think people with commissions with OCs, like their OCs, they're not always comfortable with it. So just be careful what you copy and what you do. So if I say it's like a commission, just I guess avoid that one. But the rest, the studies or whatever, just if you want to take it to use as a profile picture, you want to paste on. Actually, you want like put it as your desktop background wallpaper, your phone wallpaper. I don't care. Like that's all good. I'm not gonna go to your house and be like, hey, you can't use that as your phone wallpaper. You want to study, that's all good as well. I would be careful with studying artists in general, including me and other people, including all the master painters, because every single artist is gonna make some kind of mistake, technical mistakes, whether it's like intentional or not. And if you don't pick it up, then you'll just build bad habits. Triangle is just better. Yeah. And end of conversation. It shows like when it's too dark, you can't go high saturation, and when it's too bright, you can't go high saturation. So triangle is better than square, in my opinion. And any other opinion is wrong. So yeah, I'm just kidding. You can use square if you want, but I think triangle just makes sense for me. And I've seen people like diehard square fans, and they're like, square is better than triangles. I'm like, yeah, whatever makes you paint. And then iPad or Procreate has a completely cursed version of a color wheel. It's like circle. So it's like a circle and then another circle inside. And you cannot pick any color accurately with that. Like I can't select white out of it. Like here you go, if you want to select white, you just go to white, right? If you select white, you just go to white, the corner of white. Uh I'm glad they only offer these two because the other one is like the circle with Procreate. Sliders are good, HSR. Sliders are great. I just don't like sliders because it's slow. Like I have to, I do this. It's like three sliders, right? But if you want to adjust like slowly and do sliders, whatever, it's gonna be faster than mixing color and oil anyway. So whatever you choose is fine. Yeah, if you use to square, then just use square. It's not the end of the world. Here's why I don't like square. You go here and you're like, oh, I want the same brightness, and I go here, like I want red, right? But that's not the same brightness, that's darker, right? So I'm like, oh, I want white, very bright. And I say I want to go darker, right? But I want to go darker and I want to go red. See, but that's darker. That's darker than this. That's the gray is lighter than the red. If you want to go even darkness and you want to go red, you gotta go up this curve right here. So that's like maybe right here. It's the same value as this. So if we look at HSB, oh, that's actually dark. What? Oh, HSB. No, that's HSV. Forgot which one's the good one. Is this the HLS? Yeah, this one, I think. Oh, each one is different. That's so annoying. Okay. Okay. Anyway, you just gotta take my word for it. It's a different color space. But if we desaturate this, it's gonna be a way darker value down here. I know desaturation is not one-to-one for black and white values, but look at how much darker it is, even though you're just like moving to the right. So it actually gets darker. It makes no sense, right? So if I want white and I want to go red, I know it's gonna get darker. So the value obviously is not the same as here. But it's pretty close. It's gonna be a pretty close representation of like, okay, if I go saturation, I'm gonna lose some values. Square does not say that. Square does not, Square is just like, okay, like, oh, I'm bright here, and I'm really bright here. So you think like, okay, like it's the same thing, but it's not. It's really not. Like especially blue. Blue is very obvious. Blue is like a really dark color. as well. So if we go here, like, oh, that's way darker, right? But if you go to the HLS or the triangle, like we have white and then we go blue. It's like, okay, my brain is like, okay, I just lost half the values if I go fully blue. So if I want a high saturation but high value blue, I will stick here. I will stick to here. Like if I need more blue, I go a little lower, but I don't want to go all the way down here. So because it's like too low on the value scale. So yeah, so that's why. That's why square is whack. Yeah, same thing with yellow. You know, so you want yellow, it's right here. If you go down all the way here, it's like, you're losing a bit of value here. It's losing a bit of value. And it's a little bit more complicated than this, how colors work, but yeah, no, I know that Photoshop plugin. It gives you like the complementary colors and stuff. Kind of neat, but really, I would say not. I don't like software assists. I'm like, yeah, I know it's just like, okay, the complementary color is blue, and then it gives you like analogous or like quad colors or like square complements, and so like I can pick those out myself, and I can't say it's not useful. It is useful. I just don't like too much assists. It feels like it's restricting. It's restrictive. And I like to be more intuitive is not the right word. Uh, like just going with the flow with colors. And then if I need to get more technical, then I would, pull out my pocket color wheel or something. Start looking for complementary analogous stuff. But yeah, that's like, and it's the same reason why I don't use a color palette. I know it's like useful for consistency of like art styles, but I just don't like it being too restrictive. Yeah. Like I'll choose what to be restrictive on, and only when I need it. It's the same method as like painting these forms. I don't even know where the picture is. Painting these forms, go with the big form first, and then if I need to be tighter with like the colors and values, then I'll pick where I want the tightness and the technicality to be. But in the beginning, I want to focus on bigger things, like more important things. Like, does it really matter if my analogous color is off a little bit? Like, in the beginning, it probably doesn't matter that much. Like, oh, it's like, oh, this is not really the analogous color for this. It's like, it's supposed to be this, not this, right? It's supposed to be this. Not this for this color. But really, yeah, one's orange, one's red. But if I were to pick red, like instead of this, I might accidentally pick this. Does that does that matter too much? Like some people might get pissed if you commission an artist and they get the red wrong. But under lighting conditions, red's not gonna look red anyway, so it's fine. I think people overemphasize how much software assist is needed, how much accuracy is needed in the beginning. So how do you stay objective? I mean, I want to draw better. That's mainly what I think about. So I try to focus on that. Uh, I don't really know what the right answer here is. I don't have a. It's not really a complicated philosophy. I think objectivity is easier for people who don't get too attached to their like draft. So if you have a rough draft, some people get really attached and they're like, oh, I don't want to mess up this sketch, and then they end up not finishing the drawing because they rather have a sketch that's not messed up than a finished drawing that's messed up, and they spend a lot of time on it. So let's say you spend 20 hours on a painting. If it messes up, then you get really annoyed. Uh, but if I'm doing paintings every single day, I'm not attached particularly too much to a single painting. I'm more attached to like my current skill set than any one of the paintings. So my critiques is they prioritize like getting my skill set better rather than like keeping or retaining the integrity of individual pieces. So I'm not too attached. I'm not like I won't get like offended if somebody critiques any single piece. So in the end, I don't feel like I don't feel adverse to critiquing my own stuff as a result. And that's a lot of questions. Any other questions? How to paint? You just grab a color, grab a brush, and you just go. That's all. That's all it is. Are you self-taught? Yes. Anything about getting better composition? Oh boy. Big shapes. Better composition. Focus on big shapes. Studies and stuff. Okay. See you next week, Ryan. And yeah, actually, if you have to go, you can as well. But I'm just here answering questions. If you have any questions, I'll answer too. But better at composition. That's close to saying how do I get better at art? Like you can't I can't answer that within like a couple hours. So you end up getting like really dumb answers like, yeah, just practice fundamentals, just draw more. And that none of that really helps. Like if you don't learn to ask better questions, like more specific questions where the answers you can act on, then you're just gonna get very generalized, broad answers for your really broad questions. I will attempt to stream more, but I haven't because I got busy. Drawing hair, form. Get better at drawing form. Drawing form well is the answer to a lot of your questions. A lot of most people's questions. I make the brush. Like if you're talking about this one right here, talking about this one right here, I just make these brushes. How can I join the mentorship? So, great question. Segue to my sponsorship, me for this video. So, I run a mentorship like seasonal, and I only take like maybe I think maximum I can take is like 15 to 20 students. Right now I'm only taking 10. Uh I will announce the mentorship like sign up sheet 1 month before each mentorship sessions. And the next session is gonna probably be sometime in May. Like late May, mid or late May. That's the earliest I will open it. So information about the next mentorship will probably come late April to early May. I also have a okay, so for those of you that don't know, the I have a class in Underpaint that is gonna start on April 12th. I think the sign up should be still open. The sign up should be still open for the spectator. The spectator is like you'll watch the class, and there's going to be critique spots. So critique spots will get homeworks, and I'll critique and paint over them. But the mentorship, or not mentorship, the spectators won't really get that. But the price is, I think, $800 for the mentorship seats, and then $300 for the spectator seats. It's like 8 weeks, 5 hours a week. It's like one day per week, and it's 5 hour long classes because it takes that long to do paint overs. So I'll just talk for 5 hours and paint for 5 hours. It'll include demos and stuff. You can just Google Underpaint Academy. It's a pretty famous little platform with like artists that teach. And I think for you, oh my god, yeah, don't call it that. Uh, so yeah, if you want more information, it's just Google Underpaint Academy and my name, and then you'll find my class there. And the mentorship is separate from that. So the mentorship is like I focus more on the individual like goals, so you can have slightly different goals, and I mentor you to help you reach those goals, or at least format those goals in a way that is approachable for your current skill set. What baseline skill do you mentee in order to take your mentorship? There's no baseline. You can be completely new. Now, of course, your goal is going to be different from someone who's already pro, like someone who's working or has been doing illustration for a long time or doing commissions. I did take a few that are like very experienced, and I did take one or two that's like almost brand new, never drawn before. So either one's like the whole spectrum is fine. The reason I turned down some mentorship is like if you ask me to do things that I'm not really that's not really what I do. For example, if you're like, oh, can you teach me how to design vehicles? Well, no, I can't. Because I don't design vehicles. I can teach you how to draw vehicles, like forms and fundamentals and stuff. I can teach you how to get better at your craft. Let's say you design vehicles and you're like, can you teach me how to draw vehicles better? I already got the design down. I just need to hone in on some of these skills to make my illustration cleaner, illustration clearer, or you need more separation, more depth, you want more painterly drawings, all kinds of stuff. But those things I can do, then I can mentor you. Now, if you said, I want to learn how to design spaceships, well, design is not really something I do, right? So, like, I can do them, but I don't do them in a way, in a capacity that makes sense for me to teach other people to do. Not a designer, I'm a painter. So, but the skill baseline is not an issue. Yeah, getting feedback is kind of difficult. I have my server has like Discord server has a feedback section that I sometimes visit, but other people also visit. So you can post your stuff for feedback, and usually you get some kind of feedback. My advice is like, when you're trying to get feedback, be more specific. So it's like, if you want feedback on like form, just specify like, oh, my form looks off. Or my design looks off. Like, don't just be like, oh, make my painting better. That doesn't really help anybody. It doesn't help you, and the feedback people know what to do. It's like, what do you mean better? Like, better is pretty subjective. Uh, there was, yeah, it's a little bit more demand than I thought. There were, I think, I opened the registration for one day for mentorship, so it's the 12-week mentorship. It's not exactly like it's pretty cheap in the industry, but and that's because I'm doing like a pilot thing. That's like the first large scale mentorship that I did, and it was like 80 people registered within the first day, so I closed it within 1 day. Um, but I can only take 10 students. I run out of time. So each student or each class, each session is 1.5 hours long. Usually I go over that, obviously. I'm still here. So usually I go over the time, but um it is supposed to be 1.5 hours. I go over when I need to explain something. And it's once a week with homeworks and stuff. And yeah, I can and it's 2 students per session. So I can only take so many students because I also teach classes in person in real life. So I don't have much time. And as you some of you might know, I painted the I was painting the Last Supper, Jesus and co. That took a lot of time, so I was pretty busy for the last 3 months, 2 months, 3 months. I plan to take more mentorship students, like a little more, not like 40 people, but maybe like 16 people or something, something more manageable. I think I'll try maybe 16, but I don't know yet. But yeah, that would be the mentorship would be on top of the class I'm teaching at Underpaint, like separate thing. Underpaint is more like a scheduled thing. It'll be from and it'll focus on form and lighting, whereas mentorship is more wide ranged. If you wanted to do composition, we can do composition. If you wanted to do uh like anime stuff, we can do anime stuff. If you want to do perspective, I have one guy doing pretty heavy perspective work. I have another guy doing like, well, nobody's actually doing anatomy right now, but a few guys doing like form, and then a few guys doing more basic stuff like bigger shapes, like Charles Bark. It really depends on where you are at for mentorship, and that's the whole point, right? If you everything is like cookie cutter, just you might as well watch a YouTube video. They have so much information out there. You don't need someone to specifically tell you what to do. So I can't answer all the questions through text. It's just like people asking like, oh, how can I improve this or that? I'm like, yeah, I can explain it to you, but it's gonna take like 2 hours of my time to even explain it. So as much as I'm okay with doing charity work, the the bills don't really care for that. If I starve to death, I can't draw anymore. Do you think students who active? No, I don't. I don't. No, no, narcotics, please. So the criteria I take students is like one of the criteria is like you are able to spend some time doing homework. If you don't have time to do homework, then don't do mentorship right now. It's not gonna help you. So if let's say you do mentorship like 1.5 hour, and I don't know how many mentorship you want to take at the same time because I have another guy that's actually maybe more than one guy that's taking like 2 mentorship at the same time. Like yeah, if you have the time to do it, but he's like hitting some burnout sometimes. But if you're doing like mentorships, I would say maybe for every hour in the mentorship, you probably gonna end up spending like 4 more hours outside of it to do practices. Because yeah, I can explain the concept to you, but the concept needs to sink in. And in order to do that, you need to spend the time to practice these concepts. It will take you every hour of me explaining will take you at least like 4 or 5 hours doing before it settles the first pass. And you have to keep doing it because if you don't do it until it's like internalized, you'll lose it over time. But once it internalizes, you don't really lose it. So it takes a really long time to lose it. So if I don't draw perspective for like a decade and I come back and draw it, just give me like a couple hours to warm up, and I should be good. But if it never settles, if that information never settles, and you never internalize how to do perspective, you might do it right once, and then you stop. You know, 5 years later, you try to do it again. It's like learning from the beginning again. So yeah, you have to have enough time. I try to take people who have like, at least 5 to 8 hours, 3 to 8 hours at least. If it's like you can't dedicate 3 hours per week to do homework, just, focus on what you want to focus on right now. And then once you have time to do this, then do this. Because otherwise it would be kind of a waste of money. Traits of students who improve quickly and plateau. Okay, so instead of students who improve quickly and plateau, because everybody plateaus, it's more like students. What's the difference when they improve quickly and when they get stuck, when they plateau on something? So there's you as a student, you're gonna have things that you get quickly and things that you don't get quickly, and you'll plateau really, really hard. The things that makes people plateau is like if they have a habit that's built against what they're trying to learn. So if they're trying to learn something like rendering stuff like this. Okay, let me just try to put some examples on the screen, visual explanations. So if you're trying to do stuff like give a difficult example actually. Do stuff like this. Like it's a little bit of form, but really it's like detail management. If I have students draw something like this, they'll get pretty stuck because there's a lot of details and you tend to drown yourself into the details. You're like, oh, I want to really draw the eyes first or draw the hair first, but that would be a very inefficient approach. But if you're in the habit of doing lines, like, oh, let's do the anatomy, let's do the proportions, then you're gonna get lost. So the students that have a really strong habit of how they start, and they like, it's not like they refuse, it's more like it's hard to learn to break a habit, and you spend more time breaking the habit than it takes the time it takes to learn the thing that you need to learn. So you get stuck on it. It's not like it's difficult. You take classes or purely YouTube and self-taught. uh Neither. Neither classes nor YouTube. I'm just self-taught. So how I teach myself is I look at other people's painting. I don't listen to what they say. I don't like I read very few books. Like Loomis, I read bits and pieces of like formal perspective. I read bits and pieces of like Charles Bargue, a little bit of like Renaissance stuff, like oil painting stuff. But I never really like read too much into it because the thing the thing with like teaching, right? It's hard to trust the source sometimes. So you go into YouTube, you see a lot of people teach like, oh, how to paint like Leyendecker, how to paint like John Singer Sargent. I see a lot of those videos. And I think, yeah, maybe it works to a certain degree. Like they end up painting kind of like John Singer Sargent, kind of like Leyendecker, kind of like William Burroughs. But I could just go to the paintings themselves. Like, who paints like John Singer Sargent? Sargent paints like John Singer Sargent. So what you do is you just break down the the art itself instead of going to another person and have them break it down. And it's a little bit of trust issue, fine. But really, like, if you think about it, what makes you learn more? Is it someone regurgitating something? Like a lot of these YouTube videos, they regurgitate information they see from other YouTube videos, and then eventually you kind of lose the sauce. But sometimes what they say is right. Like, yeah, like not all, like most of the information is going to be right. Like I would say even like up to 80% of the information are really good, but the way it's presented it's like spoon fed to you. So what you end up doing is like you kind of just put it on the background. I see a lot of people like, oh yeah, I just do studies while this podcast of art tutorial list playlist is playing in the back. I'm like, okay, so you're learning nothing at all because you're not thinking. Now, if you go into a John Singer Sargent painting and you like look at the details, right? And let's pull another example. Let's try to pull another example. I think okay, let's pull a Leyendecker. Where is my Leyendecker? So this is a Leyendecker study, and this is a conversion to obviously the best character ever, Ganyu. So and this is a little bit of a different style from the original because Leyendecker at a later stage when he's doing commercial stuff, he does these lines to show like cross sections of forms, and then this is also this one is also a study of Leyendecker. So you can look at the original. Look at the original. Dude, where's the original? I don't even remember the name of the painting. Come on, man. Give me a second. Yes, so many paintings. Anybody know the name of this painting? You have to spend like an hour finding it. Okay, maybe you guys just have to take my word for it. Maybe it's a florist, yeah. Yeah, it is. Okay. It is the florist. Okay. You see, like, the style is pretty close. Say it's like more than halfway there. But I didn't study this by like going to a YouTube video explaining how Leyendecker drew. I just looked at how Leyendecker drew. like painted this. Obviously, it's a different medium. This is digital and this is oil. The method I would do for oil is not going to be much different from digital. It's just like how closely I want to study. And then once I understood the style, like a little bit more about like the preference of Leyendecker, like how what kind of shape he likes to use, what kind of contrast he likes to use, then I would change it to, my original character where I use the same type of shapes, the same type of depiction for light, for shadows, for contrast, and I would paint different things as if he would have painted it. So that's how I study style sometimes. Um, like, do I really understand it? Because if I do really understand it, then I should be able to paint other things with the same fidelity, with the same style, elements of style. The only thing I change is obviously the character, the style of the character. So, Leyendecker would never draw a character with horns, I think, or pointy ears, I think, and maybe a little bit difference in proportions and stuff like that. But yeah, I don't. Okay, so the reason I do this on my own is because I have to think through, like I have to break down, like, okay, what makes a Leyendecker painting his painting? Because his stuff is based a lot on like fundamentals, like form and stuff. But so is a lot of other artists. But the way that he does lighting is it's just slightly different from other artists. Same with every other artist. They're all unique in a certain way. So for me to break down the uniqueness myself, I have to think through every single like brushstroke, every single color choice and shape choices, composition choices that he went through. And when I do that, it it's quicker to internalize that information because when I analyze it, it's already like it's from internal, right? I have to think about it. Is it normal to have to press really hard on default brush? Yeah, kind of. So anyway, that's a long answer to your question. Yes, yes, I'm self-taught, but not through YouTube. Not through not through YouTube, not even through books. Books are useful, very useful, I would say, more useful than YouTube videos these days. Um, but I like to break down things myself. I feel like the depth of understanding is a bit better for me personally. I see some people like try to learn from YouTube videos, and they say a lot of things that make sense. They say like, "Oh, you should learn fundamentals. You should focus on big shapes." But when I see them do it, it's like, okay, but you're not practicing what you say you should be doing. And I realize it's like, okay, you say the right things because you're regurgitating what you've heard from 10 other YouTube videos, but you're not really doing it because you didn't figure that out on your own. So you don't know what depth to do it at. So that makes sense. Can I attempt again that portrait question? Sure. I don't remember. I don't know which one you're talking about. Uh, this one? I don't do line art. Like 99.9% of the time I do not do line art. I do line art like maybe one out of it like 1,000 paintings. How do you learn value translation? Wait, translates to learning color. Oh, oh yeah, I do actually. I do have an answer. Best beginner brush, so round brush. Round brush is so good. Show one with line art. Huh. I don't know if I can find a painting with line art. I can find a line art drawing, but I don't think I can find one of my paintings with line art because they're so rare. Uh, oh man. Line art based paintings. I can't find one like straight off the top of my head. Let me see. Trying to find one, but I don't think so. I think you're out of luck here. Even the stuff that looks like it has line art, like a little bit of line art, does not have line art. Like its line is added afterwards. As a, it's like just part of the painting at that point. It's not really like line art and then flat color and then whatever else. I just don't like line art. I don't know what to tell you. So learning values one axis. So you have this axis, black and white. You have this axis, saturation. You have this axis, which is in a circle, represented in a circle. It's the hue axis. So if you're really good at discerning the difference between one axis, you can translate that to different axes. So, but if you can't and you try to work with all three axes at the same time, you'll just get lost. So isolating, this is a reducing the problem. So isolating the training. So if you have three axes, then it's hard to play with, right? So artist Laurent Parcellier, I I don't know. I don't know that one. Let's see. Maybe I know the work. I hmm, I don't know the work either. Actually, that's kind of rare. Oh wait, I've seen this one. I've seen one of their work, the cafe fine print, but I'm not familiar with their stuff. Yeah, hello. I do stream sometimes. I'm trying to stream more. How do you paint without references? Is it just based on okay, so I don't often paint without references, but sometimes I do. And when I do, it's just grabbing from memory, grabbing stuff from memory, or structural. So you can figure out things structurally. You can figure out things from memory. So this one, for example, is just no reference. There are a few that I have that just like you just like randomly do it. Um, Stuff like this, no reference, it, and then this one, no reference. Something's yeah, and yeah, basically it's just drawing from your mind or memory or structural like reasoning. But yeah, it's does test you a little bit. 50-50 ref versus no ref learn. Is that a good idea? I don't know if that's a good idea for everybody. Depends where you're at. If you're new, do like 90% reference. You know, if you're really experienced, then yeah, maybe 50-50 is okay. How do you recommend studying fundamentals? That's a long question as well. I love doing portraits. I heard someone say start with portraits. Many artists start that way, and I got a little conscious. Ooh, that's a good one. Hey, it took me a second to think about that. Portraits is one of the harder things that you can draw. Like, I don't know why anybody would say that. I think the people who say that might not understand that it's actually difficult because one, you're focused on the face. Two, it's like face is like really easy to look uncanny. I don't think you really need to evolve anywhere. It's not really like a hierarchy from like portrait to I don't know. What's like the next step from portraits like landscape? I heard of that one. It's like, oh, some people who's like less experienced, they would say, oh, like, oh, you're doing portraits, like kind of small scale stuff. Like one day you will learn how to paint like mountains and stuff. Like, just because the object is bigger, it doesn't make it easier. Actually, in fact, rocks and mountains and trees, by itself is slightly easier than portraits because you don't have to worry about likeness. Now, there's not. That's not to say there's no difficulty in mountains and trees. There's actually like a question of simplification, which is more difficult to do in trees and mountains and rocks and stuff. But that's not something that a beginner would worry about too much. Best beginner, but oh yeah, I answered that one. Is there a problem with just liking portraits? No, there's not a problem with that. Oh, some people might think it's a bit boring. Now, if you, as an artist, don't think it's boring, you just keep doing that. There's not a particular exercise I would recommend the most. It's not like, oh yeah, do this for 10 years and you'll be good. Study fundamentals only after you know you want to study fundamentals. It sounds stupid, but once you start drawing, you'll realize that you can't draw what you like because you don't have the technical capacity to draw what you like. Once you get to that point, then you have to ask yourself like which part is the technical capacity that I need to get closer to drawing what I like. And then you can decide which fundamentals you need. It's not like you have to master fundamentals before you can draw anything. You know that picture? It's like, oh, before you, like, okay, let me just show that picture. See it? Oh my God, that's a crazy picture. This one is unrelated, but is like YouTube video thumbnails. I can't find it, but they're like, oh, to draw anime. Wait, actually, maybe I can. Yeah, I can't find it. So they're like, to draw anime, you must learn how to draw realism first. It's not true. Day one, day seven. It's pretty fast. How long did this painting take? User 104Z. 5, 6 hours? I don't remember. It's a while back. Do you have any idea when you'll open up the next mentorship, or is it under Paint Academy course that? Okay, so under Paint Academy, I will run concurrent to my mentorship sessions. So the mentorship sessions is going to be available, I think, late May, and I'll announce details in April. So this time I'll have like a predetermined date to where the registration open, and people can start registering. I'll probably collect some like way of contact, whether it's like email or whatever, so I can like send emails out. If people are interested, they can add that so they don't miss future like announcements. Uh, oh man, let me try to answer the question. Which artists are you studying currently, and what do you want to extract from them? Not particularly any artist right now. I haven't done art artist study in a while. Actually, no, that's not true. I did an oil painting artist study from Mark Boages, Mark Boages, oil painter. Um, really good oil painter. Landscape. I want to learn how to do landscapes from him. I sketched my freerun painting. Nice. What are your main sources of lighting reference? More specifically, is a site where you hunt for these photos. Uh, Red Note, Pinterest. Yeah, that's primarily where the lighting references come from. I also sometimes go out and look at rocks, trees, just outside. I avoid touching grass, but if you just stay on pavement, you're pretty safe. So I should isolate hue, saturation. I would just do isolation of values first, and then once you get really good at that, just throw in the other two. Help you improve silhouette designs. What exercise help you improve silhouette designs? Silhouette designs. Just do silhouettes, Like you get better at it by doing it. Have you ever tried a style that's more intense in line art? Okay, so I've done. Okay, right, let's pull up some stuff. Okay, so I looked at the PewDiePie drawing. This is like the PewDiePie drawing I wanted to draw because it was like a really cool drawing. This is kind of line-ish. This is kind of line-ish. This is like a little bit of hatching, dirty hatch. Uh, this is more like blocking. It's just a sketch, right? This is more cleaner line, and then I do studies sometimes in lines because it's faster for accurate movements, accurate lines, edges. And then let's see what else. What else I got? Pencils are inherently lines, but I guess I won't count that because I technically still block it in. This is more like I guess it's still lines. It's a little bit of blocking, but uh, spaceship engine thingy. I do like practices with lines recently. Started practices with lines. And then oh my god, freerun from 2023. It's old drawing. Let me see. 25. I don't have too many things in 26 yet, but some line studies. Some more line studies. Some more line studies. More line studies. I mean, there's a bunch. I don't know where you want me to stop, but I don't do like too much finished stuff with lines. I think maybe earlier 24. I have some. No, should be 23. This is kind of a little bit more. It's like finer. I guess this. Okay, this one can probably like be as like a standalone thing. You gotta close all of these. Okay. But yeah, I don't do lines too much. Perceive the evolution to be drawing scenes with characters doing things with other characters or environment. Well, I mean, if that's what they wanted to do, then yes, it's an evolution. But that doesn't mean portrait artists are just like lower tier artists than scene artists. They're just different types of artists. The best way to learn art through. What do you think is the best way to learn art through books? Ooh. Find books related to the fundamentals that you want to practice and just read those, Like if interested in anatomy, I pick up a medical book. If I'm interested in perspective, I'll pick up like a blueprint thing. It's no straight answer for that. To me, it's like you're working out. You don't wait for the muscles to grow and do exercise. You figure out the exercise that builds the muscle. Yeah. Are we allowed to join as beginners? Join what? Join the under underpaint? Or join my sessions for mentorship? Do you like traditional oil painting compared to digital so far? I do. I do traditional. I do like traditional quite a lot. Traditional is actually easier for textures. Digital is it's like a pain for textures. But otherwise, oil paint is just slower because they don't dry as fast and you have to mix colors. Here you just pick a color. You don't have to worry about mixing, but the rest is the same or very similar. Some minor inconveniences like undried paint can get everywhere, but yeah. Best black and white work. Uh, it's a good question. I can show you ones I like. It's hard to pick a best one. I can show you some that I like. If I can find it. Okay, so this is pencil work. I like this one a bit. Uh, Black and white. Does it have to be black and white or monochrome? This one I like quite a bit. Balance is good. Texture is a little bit stale. There's no difference. I already did a critique on this one, I think, or a similar one where I talk about texture usage. Uh oh, I don't. I did this one. Okay. Uh, this one I do like quite a bit. Black and white, and then the flower one I do like a lot too. This was more recent, way more recent. And this one was yesterday. Where is it? This one was yesterday. This one's okay. It's a little bit flat. Just oh, I like this one. That's partially because Michelangelo is really good, but it's also pencil drawing. I like this. It doesn't look so dark in real life because you can only go so dark with 2B pencils, but the contrast is it's just up to contrast, but the value range or the value control is about the same. Yeah, there's quite a few I enjoy, but there's way more that I don't. Have you ever worked on for a studio? No, not directly. I've worked with them sometimes. Not sometimes, rarely, but I do get collabs with um for marketing stuff, but not often. I don't work directly with them. I don't work in-house ever. So, yeah, there's a limited slot for critique sessions. Um, but I will have sessions open in the future, but those are also not guaranteed to me. Um, and those are not first comes first serve. Favorite subject to learn? Form. Uh, yeah, form. Surprised to find out. Huh. I like clothing studies, cloth studies, like drapery, more than I thought I would. It's enjoyable. Still kind of difficult, but it's more enjoyable than I thought. Do you adjust canvas proportions to fit what you make or vice versa? Both. I have done both. So sometimes I paint something I like and I'm like, needs to be wider, and I crop it wider. But generally, I try to make the piece fit the canvas because in real life you can't. Well, you can extend the canvas in real life, but such a painful process. I wouldn't do it. It's easier to crop canvas, but I also wouldn't do that. So yeah, I don't want extra work. How much art studying do you do, and do you dedicate them to? What do you dedicate? What do you mean dedicate them to? Like, I don't understand the question. I struggle to put color on my work because they never end up vibrant. Right, though. It's control for saturation is a tricky one. People oversaturate their paintings too much, and it ends up washed out because you have competing hues. So learning to key your paintings is very important. So limiting the hue ranges that you're using, and be very good at grays, using grays, like very close to gray. It's counterintuitive. To get better at color, you have to get better at grays, like using gray colors. Usually, yeah, I don't understand the withering bus in Amphorius. Yeah, I don't understand that question. Um, oh wait, everything else is except my colors. Capturing motion, kind of hard as well. Oh, like what type of fundamentals? I mean, it depends on what I need. So if I feel like I want more fundamentals or want more practice with like smaller shapes or like grouping, then I'll practice that first. But I can't really tell you what the breakdown is like. Tips on clothing. You can draw them without cloth, for anatomy studies, but you don't really need to do that often. Clothing, as long as you can drape them over form, you can drape them over any form you want. Like, so you'll practice anatomy and cloth separately, and you'll practice cloth draping over things separately. And once you can do that, you can combine them pretty easily. It's not easy, I guess. It's simple, not easy. So how much time do you usually do art studies? I do maybe like average like an hour or two a day. I don't. There's no. It's hard to say what I focus on because what I focus on is different. Sometimes I focus on form the most. Everything else is secondary to me. Falling into trap of watching YouTube videos and not observing how to observational study. Yeah, yeah. Like I said before, YouTube videos are great to get started with things, but very quickly you should look somewhere else because YouTube videos are packaged in a way is like they make the they make it seem like the information is very easy to digest, right? And it makes sense when they say it and they do examples of it. So it's like, oh, just draw like this. Just draw the form first. Make big shapes and make sure it's accurate. And you'll repeat those same things as other people ask you some questions, and it will seem like you really know what you're talking about. But if you haven't internalized it, then it's not really useful information, right? That's like saying, oh, just if you get drafted in a war, just be really brave and just go, just do your thing. And I can say that, but if I don't try it out for myself, then I'll probably not be really probably not be very good at it. It's you can get the words for the concepts down, but you can't apply it unless you fail through it first. I think the best way to learn to draw people and creatures is people and creature are different things, but yeah, I want to from imagination. Okay, so creature from imagination, that's fine because creature is like could be non-realistic. People from imagination, you have to learn how to draw people from real life first. What they look like, what they actually look like, then you can draw from those, like your memory, like visual memory bank, and you can draw people. But you can't just draw people from imagination without any basis. It wouldn't work. Okay. I'll probably, yeah, I'll head out. What the heck is this? Okay, yeah, I'll probably head out now, and I'll try to do more of these in the future. Yeah, I probably won't do mentorships on stream that much because the today is just different because I my mic is not working on Discord. But I'll do like more generalized streams, study streams in the future. And yeah, if you're interested in the mentorships in the future, when I have slots open, I'll do announcements on social channels and it'll be also on YouTube as well and Discord. And once I announce it, then I'll send out a link for registrations and whatnot, and we can go from there. But all the information will be in there. Yeah, it's definitely not cheap, but unfortunately, if I could make it cheaper, I would. But maybe if I move somewhere that's lower cost. But it is like a really competitive price in terms of mentorship already. That's kind of I don't want to be lowballing the market. So yeah, and I'll have some of these streams where I do studies, like more generalized studies, but it wouldn't really replace mentorship, but at least you see some of the processes. Um, yeah, that's about it. Any news it will be announced anyway, so you guys can get it there. And I'll for future sessions for mentorships, I'll have like I said before, I'll have like you can send me your an email through the form that I could send out notifications if you prefer to do email notifications. And each session, I'll just send out those information. I also have in real life classes, so that's located in Las Vegas, United States, like the gambling city. But if you're not in the obviously if you're not in the area, you can't do those classes. But I'm saying if you ever drop by, or if you live in the area, then those classes are available. And I'll have those information. So the class for next semester for summer actually starts late May for the in-person class. And then for underpaint, I start in April 12th. And then for the next session of mentorship, I start also late May. Yeah. And that's about it. I'll see you guys next time.